say that, but Matt, from another perspective, and Jason, I'll give you an opportunity to respond to this as well. Yesterday was a pivotal day from the Prime Minister's point of view. He called himself a bulldozer. He also said he needs to change. How do you see and read those comments, Matt?
I think the Prime Minister needs to work out who he is and then explain that to the Australian people. Bulldozers destroy things, and I think that's probably a reasonable description given that Scott Morrison's government's destroyed the aspirations of many young Australians to get into the housing market. Housing's never been more unaffordable. He's destroyed Australia's reputation internationally when it comes to taking stronger action on climate change. He's destroyed the prospects of many young kids getting into TAFE and training or getting a university degree. And these are the things that Labor wants to repair and offer a better future for Australia and work with the Australian people to fix some of these long-term problems.
I know the Teal independents, Jason, have been a problem, particularly the attacking of moderates in your party. But what about the Prime Minister? Is he just as big a problem for you guys and his image?
Look, Tim, I don't agree with the Prime Minister on this occasion. I don't think he's a bulldozer. In fact, there are times during the pandemic when I wish he'd actually stood up and said to the Australian people, hey, listen, the states really need to actually pull their heads in and do their jobs. And we saw that with Victoria, where he happily, said that he would help Daniel Andrews, even though you had that massive outbreak due to his failure with quarantine. He allowed the Labor Party to run this line over a whole bunch of things around the vaccines. You have Michelle Ananda-Rajah, who's the Labor candidate in Higgins, who made some extraordinary claims about the AstraZeneca vaccine, which saw TGA and ATAGI recommended only for people over the age of 50. It set Australia back months, and yet Scott Morrison somehow got blamed for that. I think he's done an extraordinary job in extraordinary times, and he's taken a lot of unfair criticism on board. And I mean, just to take one thing that Matt said, he's delivered net zero. He went to COP26, and basically Australia now has a plan that pretty much we're one of 10 countries in the world that have a plan. We've reduced our emissions by 21%, and still we have this nonsense coming from the Labor Party and the left generally that Australia is an international pariah. Well, if we're an international pariah, what does that make China and India? I mean, we're 1.3% of global emissions. We've reduced them by 21%. India and China are 44%. You don't hear the Labor Party, the Simon Holmes called Climate 200 independents, ever talk about that challenge. And I just think we're living in the politics of the vibe rather than the politics of the reality of making the lives of ordinary Australians, working Australians, better off. And I think Scott Morrison's done a fantastic job on that front over the last 3 years.
I think Matt and many others would not agree with
yes, I think they would. That's right.
Particularly in and around climate and your government's view on climate change.